I'm Rachel Kahler, Executive Director of the Community Alliance for Main Street, and welcome to Heber Valley Life, the podcast that celebrates the people, projects, and passions shaping our mountain community. Each episode, we sit down with dreamers, doers, and difference makers who are building a better future right here in the Heber Valley. From local businesses and artists to civic leaders and everyday heroes, this is where their stories come to life. And I am so excited to welcome my friend, Chief Parker Sever. I would love you to introduce yourself and just tell us about you personally and professionally and what led you to law enforcement.
So I'll probably do a poor job of talking about myself,
Oh,
but
come on.
I'll do my best. Um, yeah, so I was um, pretty much I grew up in Fresno, California. I was actually born in North Hollywood, but we only lived there for about 6 months. So I was pretty much I say I was born and raised in Fresno, California. Um, I went to Hoover High School there, and I I was about 19 or so, and I decided to go on a mission for our church. So I went to the England Birmingham mission in that time, and I'm one of 6 kids. So there was a few of us out and about, and that was a great experience. I love that to death. In fact, just as a side note, my daughter actually got called to the Manchester mission, so I was able to go pick her up, and I'd been there about 30 years. So I was able to see how much England had changed. And one thing is we're learning in this valley as well. Change is inevitable. And it had changed dramatically. I barely recognized anywhere
Really?
that I had been. So I got back from my mission. My dad had it's called MS Fire Protection. It was a fire sprinkler company that installs those things that put out fires. So he needed some assistance because he was starting a company. So I began working for him for a while. Um, if anybody's ever started a business, it's really, really difficult.
Right.
And there was a lot of ups and downs. I think sometimes he would pay me and then I would pay him back
Yeah.
so we could keep the business going. And then we had what led me into law enforcement was there was a tragic incident on that day. And my niece, I was on a canoe trip with her and she ended up drowning when she got caught in the canoe. She was wearing a life vest. Um, so all the first responders, and that just kind of changed the course of my life a little bit. And I wanted to do something where I could help. And my mind kept going back to when the first responders responded out, and the work that they did. And so I ended up taking a class at the college, just an introductory class to law enforcement, and I liked it. And so then I took in what pretty much went to the academy, put myself through. I got hired on by the Hanford Police Department, um, and I began working there. I'd also, one of the most important things, I married my wife.
Yeah,
So
definitely the most important thing.
most important.
Pam Sever.
Yeah, so I married my wife, Pam, um, before that happened. And then we had one child at that time, Miranda. And everybody's like, Miranda rights. And so
And that wasn't intended.
it was not intentional. I had, at that point in my life, I had zero plans of being an officer. We were just, I was watching a TV show and somebody said that. And I was like, what about Miranda? Like, I like that name. And then when our daughter was born, she had red hair. I don't know why, but Miranda just reminded me of red hair. And we ended up naming. So not really related to law enforcement, but everybody thinks it is.
That is funny.
And then we had when I got the job there, we moved to that city. We had 2 more kids. Then we adopted a child, and because we didn't have kids for about 8 years, and then we ended up having another one. Right,
But you were at Hanford for how many years?
27 years.
Yeah. I mean, that's a full career there.
It was, yeah, it was. And I started as an officer, and when I left, I was 6 years. So it was a really good career. I worked with some amazing people, um, and I had some really good experiences.
Yeah.
And then as my children got older, um, I'll be honest, I was really kind of frustrated with California. Just the way the legislature does it was not in in lock sync with them.
Right.
And so we looked at places that we want to retire to. And my dream, and I told my wife for probably the last 10 years, was I want to retire somewhere where I can open my back and peaceful. And and I actually had told her, I go, it'd be really amazing if like I could do the like go there and work there for a couple years so that I get to know people.
Right.
Not that I don't think
You'll be
being
part
the
of the
chief
community.
has ever. I want to be part of the community, and so I wanted to go there, and it's like when I go to the store, I know, hey, that's Rachel.
Yeah.
And I can go up and talk to Rachel. I don't think chief has ever been like onto my head, but I like having those relationships. And so then my kids, but we were like, well, we're gonna stay in California for our kids. Family's everything. But then our kids started moving.
Right. And a daughter preceded you to Utah.
She did, yeah, yeah. So one of the newspaper articles we kind of laugh about because it says I followed my daughter to Utah, and so we ended up visiting her here and stuff, and I just liked it more and more, and so then we looked at places to live, and then as soon as we found out that it was like, oh, we might go to Utah, and my wife, who's a singer, was like, well, we had to live within an hour of Salt Lake.
Right. Because she had a dream.
Yes, being in the Tabernacle
Right.
Choir. So we started looking, and Heber popped up, and popped up that they were looking for a police chief. And I was like, ooh, this could work.
Well, and I love that it worked for both of you. That both of you were hired in 2023, and Pam most recently has found a chair with the Temple Square Tap Choir.
She's one of the newest members of the Tabernacle.
So here you are.
So I am horrible at singing. Like I can't hold a tune to save my life. But one of the things that attracted me to my wife was actually I heard her sing in church, and I was like, "Oh, that's so beautiful." And we ended up getting married, and then so it validated though that I can't hear.
You can appreciate the artists. Yeah, I love that.
I appreciate them. So now my daughter moved up here. She's married to a police officer in West Jordan, and then I have a son who's in Taylorsville, and then my other daughter is in Kansas. And then we have
We're glad you chose Utah instead of.
Yes. Oh my. I just visited her last week. It's pretty hot and humid there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we are so excited. I had the opportunity to meet you in 2023 when you were interviewing for the chief of police position. And I do think we made the right decision. I think you've done great things since you've been here.
I'll try. I do love this occupation, and I love serving people and the officers that we've had.
I would agree. And today we really want to take a closer look at Heber City Police Department.
Sounds good.
And the vital role that it plays in our community. I loved the department's mission. I found this online, that it's focused on improving the quality of life, preserving peace and safety, and building positive partnerships with the public. So I want to start with the bigger picture. As the chief of police, what's the current focus with the police department right now?
Yeah, so you brought it up, and the exact mission statement is to improve the quality of life by preserving the peace and safety of the community through formation of partnerships, creating positive interactions between the public and the police, while we continue to serve the unique needs of people. And you might have also noticed on our patrol cars, on every patrol car, which started before I was here,
right?
But it says "Serve with compassion, protect." And that's a great motto as well, because that's what we want when we go out to the scene and we touch. We want them to know that we care. But likewise, unfortunately, sometimes in our occupation, we also have to protect
and enforce.
Yes, and enforce and not be the nice guy.
Right.
So it kind of has a nice balance to both of those things.
Yeah.
And I think actually a recent example of this, and something that we're continuing trying to foster is to reward officers for those good behaviors that we see. But a recent example was on the 4th of July. I think a few people heard about that. The wrong way driver on Main Street got in a traffic accident, and there was a gun involved, and
or a perceived gun.
A perceived gun, yes. Yeah. And so basically, there was a wrong way driver on that street. He got in an accident with a he said he had a gun. The officers responded out and were luckily to extricate him out without any injury to the suspect.
Or really community incident. I mean, what was scary about that moment was there were 1,000 people at the park.
Just right around the corner, yes.
And it was the 4th of July. There was a lot of traffic on Main Street. There was a lot of people at nearby businesses observing. And so it really was all eyes were on your officers and how they were handling that
Yeah, and
situation.
the good part was that, I mean, we had officers at that event, so they literally were running down the street to the
Right.
other incident. Um,
I heard one took out a few barricades trying to make sure he got
yeah,
there in time, which we appreciate, right? We want timely there, and it really is to their credit that the situation was diffused quickly and dealt with, and that individual having the mental crisis that they were having, you know, I think that that really gives credit to your officers and the training that
yeah. In
you
fact,
are putting them through.
one of the officers said, he goes, "That's the closest I've been to shooting him," because he wasn't cooperative. When he finally got out, he was putting his hands behind his back, but one of the people saw that it was, and so they were yelling to the other officers, "It's a self run, it's a self," so that we didn't, somebody didn't see something different than somebody else. But I think one of the interesting parts of that that people might not know was that then we got an email from the family that he ran into. We were just driving through Heber, and it says, and this was what the individual wrote: "I would like to thank your department for their amazing efficiency, professionalism, and caring in handling the vehicle accident on the 4th of July on Main Street. My wife, daughter, and I felt completely safe and supported during this potential tragic event. The officers went out of their way to help clear the clear the area and took us to the police station, giving us food and water and a quiet place to plan our next steps. They then took us and our belongings to the Best Western, and then 30 minutes later came back to the hotel and dropped off free Joe Nichols consequences. It was so thoughtful and healing to go out and decompress. The community was so very supportive. My daughter said she wants to move here because everyone was so nice. Thank you and your staff for making a difficult situation." Yeah, and you can't, I mean, you can't pay for that publicity. And it's not, they're not doing it for that reason.
No.
They're doing it because they're good people.
Yeah, and it's
And
the compassion part of what your officers are doing that it could have been the worst day, the worst holiday, and yet they were able to say, "Hey, we understand that you are now put out because your car is now damaged," and I love that.
no, and it really embodies that entire mission statement. It was protect with courage, so with compassion.
Yeah,
And they took care of everybody and had made a negative thing something positive for that. They're not going to remember the horrible part of it. They remember how nice everybody was. And so that's the type of thing that the thing that we want to foster in our business. We want those positive interactions that people will know these officers. Because when they know the officers, they're more likely to talk to them, to give them information, to make the community, to help make the community safer. Because they're like, I know Officer Weishaupt, and he's going to help me.
right. And he's a good guy.
He is a really good guy. I like him. He
Well,
was there at that incident.
yeah, he was the one that ran through a few barricades that he admitted to. So, as you stepped into that role in 2023, tell me some of the top priorities that you had coming into the department.
Yeah, so I think the first thing I want, so I'd done some research on the department and stuff. And so I believed it was a pretty well ran department. So I wasn't super concerned about going in and having to um, fix a whole lot of problems. So initially, I really wanted to just go in and get to know the officers, get to know some of the people in the community, and see what they thought. Because I've been in situations before where somebody comes in there, I'm like, why are you changing that? Like that's working for us. And especially coming from another state where, I mean, police work is police work. I
Right,
think in
right.
any state, but the process can be different. And so I wanted to understand our processes before we went in, did, did anything that was change anything. And then hopefully whatever processes that brought into place, I wanted to work for our community, to work for our officers, and to make it their lives better. So as I've gone through my police job, when I was a police officer, my primary focus was serving the members. As I got more onto the admin side, I think more of my focus is on serving the officers so that they can provide that service to them.
But that's what your officers want. I mean, they want to make sure that budget wise, they have the tools and the equipment that they need. It's definitely a more administrative role, but it's because you were an officer, you were in their position, you understand their needs, and you're able to meet that in the leadership position.
Yeah, and throughout my career, I've seen different. Like, I don't mean to talk bad about anybody, but I remember at my last agency when I was an officer, the brand new patrol car went to the admin staff, and then once they were done with it, it went to the officers. And
Should have been the other way around.
yes, and so my entire career, I've driven the worst patrol cars. This is
Because now you're at the top and you're still driving the worst
yeah,
because you're handing the new ones to the new ones.
yeah. Actually, the nicest one I ever drove at my last agency was in people are gonna laugh at this because I'm from California, but it was an electric Mustang Mach-E, but I got it on a grant. So we got a deal on it, and that was right at the end of my career, and that was pretty much the nicest. I've driven before that. I drove a Ford Fusion, and before that, I drove a Prius because I wanted.
You're not going to catch anyone with those.
No, I'm not. However, I did make several arrests in the Prius. Nobody thought it was a police officer.
You're the undercover guy.
Very undercover.
Well, let's talk about your force because you do have a fairly young and energetic department. They're great people, but there's definitely some youth that we see with your officers. How do you relate to those officers, and how are you leading when there's such an age gap?
Well, so yeah, I'm 55 years old. Um, however, I'm only 55 when I look in the mirror.
I know your heart is a little younger than
I'm a lot younger than that, and I like to have a good time. And we like to have it, but I think there's a lot of benefits to having that youth. With that youth brings excitement, energy, and those things. But the thing is, we have to make sure that we mentor them and we push that energy and excitement in the right direction.
positive. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not uncommon for those things to also get out of control. You know, like a great example of that is, I mean, just officers when they first start are so much more likely to get in an accident because they're so excited to get to the scene that they'll drive code 3 without as much caution as they should. And happened to me, and I got in an accident, and then I realized I never arrived at that scene, and I could be of help to nobody. In fact, I made the situation worse. And you learn those things. So hopefully we try to mentor them and teach them the way try to put some maturity in them that doesn't quite exist yet.
On that note, though, I have noticed the public is less likely to pull out of the way. I think what I've noticed when you see traffic lights, especially on Main Street, is people just kind of stop.
Yeah.
Where in years past, the rule was always get as far away to the side of the roads to allow for emergency vehicles.
Yeah, you're supposed to pull to the right.
Yeah.
And when we drive, you might see us doing some odd things. And for instance, like we were going code through somewhere. I was with Sergeant Powers, and the vehicle stopped in the road, just like you said, and they were in the number 1 lane, which is the closest to the middle. And we went to the left into oncoming traffic around it. And we always try to go to the left because you're supposed to pull to the right. And it's without fail. If we pull to the right of him, he would then pull to the right. And then we're really at fault for that. So when you see us doing some maneuvers, we're actually trained to work within the bounds of what you're supposed to do with the law. And then we work around those situations.
Interesting. Wow. Well, let's talk about what the police department's dealing with. I would say a lot of the citizens say that Main Street and speeding in residential areas is the number 1 issue in Heber right now because of it's uncomfortable to see the congestion on Main Street and it's noisy. But what really are the things that you guys are dealing with besides?
So traffic is a big one.
Yeah.
And it probably, just to put it in perspective, that is probably the number one issue for every police department across the state.
Really?
It's not just unique to Heber. It was the number 1 issue in my last agency, and it is everywhere else because it's what the public encounters on a daily basis.
Right.
This, you drive to work every day, then you go pick up the kids, so it's something you're constantly encountering.
Right.
So it's a constant frustration. And so, just on that note, one of the things that we've done since I've been here to work with that is we just got our second motor officer. And
So when you say motorcycle,
motorcycles,
yeah.
yes. So you'll see 2 officers, they drive a little bit different motorcycle. I thought it was more fitting to this area. It's an Enduro, it's a Yamaha Tenere. So it's not like a big Harley or a BMW. But with the size of the city, with our off-road trails, things of that nature, we thought it was a little more fitting. And so our first officer was Lenny Newby. He went through last year, and then we had it's a little bit of a process because we had to get these bikes outfitted, and most people haven't outfitted a bike like that for police work, so it's kind of a process. And the school that they pass, just to let you know, it's kind of interesting. About half the people fail it. It's not a given. It's very difficult. And he actually just went through this year. He's an instructor as well. And then Brian Bird just went to the school about a month ago, and so he passed the school, and his bike is currently at um, the upfitters. So it's getting upfitted, and we'll see two motorcycles. I'm driving around, and so that helps with. It's just easier for them to like get to a traffic accident because they can kind of split lanes, especially with how busy Main Street is. And our officers sometimes are really delayed getting there because there's just too much traffic. And then as soon as it starts backing up, somebody pulls into the center, and then we're kind of stuck. So it'll give us a thing there. And it's also easier for the motorcycles to do traffic. So I think that'll be a good addition to this department. Another thing it does is it gives another opportunity for officers to do something else within the department, which improves morale and encourages people to stay because you might want that opportunity to be a canine officer or be a motor officer.
So with traffic being number one,
Yes. So other ones, it's really all the other crimes. It's vandalism, it's graffiti, it's DUI drivers. Uh, that surprised me a little bit when I got here. We have a lot of, in fact, on 4th of July was a matter. There's quite a few impaired drivers. In fact, my very first traffic stop I made in Heber was in Sever.
so is it impairment in that it could be prescription drug, alcohol?
Yes, it could be
Any of those.
The one on 4th of July was drugs. Mine was alcohol, but there's quite a few impaired drivers. So, you just have to. We get a lot of calls from people. Yes, I hate people not maintaining silent traffic. We appreciate those calls, and we go after it. So, but vandalisms, graffiti.
And are those bored teenagers? Is that what?
Sometimes they are. Sometimes they aren't. Um, Sometimes it is like a group of kids that decide something is funny, and so they do those things.
And not necessarily gangs.
No, but sometimes it's gangs, and usually when it's gangs, it's going to be more the graffiti and stuff is usually gang related to that nature. And we did have that incident last year we didn't find that they were actually connected to a larger gang. They were claiming they were, but we didn't find any connection. But they had beat up a couple of our kids, and we were able to track them down and arrest them. But as we do that, it's really hard it's like fireworks. I think is a big example. You make fireworks calls, but nobody's putting on a fireworks show. So you're like, I see aerials over there, and you guys need to go stop that. But by the time we kind of tried to triangulate where it's at, where they're kind of done doing it, and there's only a couple of us out there at any given time, and so we just can't be ever.
Right.
And so it can be very difficult without the public being involved and helping us and calling when they see things that are suspicious. The act, the saying see something, say.
Yeah.
So that's really important in keeping a community safe is reporting those things that you see that's suspicious. There is some technology out there that can help with that. And that was something that we implemented to prepare for the future. And the one that we just recently did was the ALPR systems, which is automated license plate readers.
Oh, that's right.
So in strategic places around town, we have 8 of them right now. It takes a picture of every single license plate that drives by. And it doesn't take a picture of the driver. It doesn't check it for registration or valid license or immigration status. It solely checks it for alerts. And so it takes a picture of the license, it runs it through the thing automatically, and it'll say, hey, there's a stolen vehicle driving down Main Street. It's northbound on this street. And it gives our officers an opportunity to get there. Because like a lot of people that are going to commit crimes don't do it in their vehicle. They steal a car from somewhere else. And so when you can get those stolen vehicles, you're probably stopping a crime.
Wow.
One of the officers told us the other day, he goes, because that's been a game changer. And we've solved numerous hit and runs with it. Um, in fact, the gang of 4 boys that was doing that last year, we actually were trying to follow them, and we lost them. And so we typed it into the ALPR system, and we got them going by camera. We picked them up, arrested them, they did some brass knuckles on us, imitation firearms, and we got everything. So um, it's just a really, really good tool. It's like you basically have a police officer sitting at Main Street and Center, watching the traffic all day long. And then we can also put alerts in there. So it also runs it for amber alerts, missing persons, silver alerts, and we can put our own alerts in there. Like if we have somebody, in fact, it happened at Tractor Supply. There was somebody that was doing retail thefts all over. And so entered their license plate in, so we had the plate, and we got them heading back to Park City and pulled them over and got them.
Amazing.
So it's a really good tool.
It's great to hear that technology is actually improving the way that you guys are
Yes.
fixing law.
One thing I think that's been frustrating the last 2 years is we've implemented a lot of computer programs. It's hard to stay up on top of all of them. So
that's why you have a good staff.
yes,
They're keeping you on top
I
of that.
definitely don't know how to use all of them.
Hey, I want to transition kind of to community impact, and it made me think of the officers that have been moved into the schools, your school resource officers, and the relationship that you're building with students at the ground level. So instead of students being fearful of law enforcement, they now have that relationship. You mentioned Officer Weischer. He was a school resource officer and very beloved. My daughter knows several of the officers' names that came through her schools. And I think that's something that you can't really put a number on, the relationships that those officers are creating with our youth. And you've developed a couple of programs, or there's several programs that are happening within your law enforcement. One of them, Shop with a Cop, the Youth Academy, and Youth Courts.
So we don't do the Youth Academy.
Oh, okay.
And it's not, that was a good program. It just kind of ran its course.
Right.
And it's very common, like Neighborhood Watch. It was really popular for a period of time. Then you have to transition into the next thing. And so we did one more. They said it wasn't very successful 2 years ago. We did another one last year. So we want to constantly evaluate this program to make sure that they're serving our needs.
Understandable.
And we determined that one really wasn't. It just wasn't reaching out to nothing. So we're adding some additional, events that kind of take its place a little bit, and hopefully will serve.
Well, let's talk about the one event you've got coming up.
Yeah, that's my favorite one.
I've seen the marketing on that. So, what is it called? Police versus Fire Balloon Showdown.
Yes, it's going to be a big water balloon fight, and
this is just you and Chief Hales, like is he trying to come back after the badges and hoses?
Yeah, he thinks he's going to be able to, because the firemen, it's water, it's their thing. But we really think that we have the opportunity to take that from them as well. I don't know. It's kind of hard to see who wins a balloon fight. Who I hope wins is the public.
Right.
And so we're going to have thousands of water balloons out there, and hopefully a lot of kids will show up. There's going to be free hot dogs, and we're hoping that they pick sides as well. And we get some kids that are fighting for the police department and some for the fire department, and we all get a lot wet.
I love it. So August 5th at your station.
Right in front of the police station.
Right, on Main Street. So you're feeding the crowd at 5.
Yes.
And then the water down showdown 6 to 7. If the water balloon is that long. Yes.
But we'll be out there for a few hours before, filling up water balloons and put them in, and we'll space them out around the park, and hopefully we'll get the fire guys. They're a little bit subject to calls for service and stuff, so hopefully they'll get out there with their hoses as well. So it'll be a good time though.
One of the things, even as of yesterday, I've noticed the collaboration between emergency personnel. I don't know what was going on, but I saw 2 police officers make a U-turn on Main Street. At the same time, I was seeing fire engines, ambulance, probably responding to a car accident. But I'm so impressed what I've seen between yourself and Chief Hales and Sheriff Rigby. to work together to support one another. So is that intentional? What are you guys doing? Are these meetings you're having to say, look, we have to come together?
We do meet together.
Okay.
And they're great guys, and they're fun to meet with. And they have good parties, and we like seeing the sheriff's deputies, and I like going over there and visiting them as well. And the fire department, I like to make fun of them more than anything else. But it's kind of a brotherhood,
Yeah.
I make fun of my brothers, and so it's all meant to be in good fun. And so, but when the proverbial poop hits the fan, we come together.
Yeah.
We're always going to be there for each other, and that's really what it's about. Is we all have the same mission, and that's to, whether it's protecting somebody in a fire, protecting somebody at a school shooting, our goals are the same. Is to help. And so, we're always going to come around and centralize.
One of the things that has always struck me, and you mentioned it earlier, these traumas that are happening. First responders are there and on someone's worst day. They're the ones that are taken care of. But yet, how do you deal with that on a personal level?
So you saw me. I unfortunately. So I'm horrible about that. Was always my like. I cut off 2 fingers last year and I laughed. And so my reaction to
Not on the job,
Not-
doing some construction at home.
my house,
Yes.
and I've been a woodworker my whole life, and if I could have a quarter of a second back, all my fingers would not be the same length. Um, but my reaction was to laugh, and that's my entire life. That's just how
Your
it.
wife.
Yes. In fact, I laugh in my sleep a lot as well, and she'll be like, "Stop laughing." So, but you saw me smile, and the reason why is I love that so much. That's one of the reasons why I do what I do, is because um,
You want to be there for
I
somebody.
get to be somewhere on their worst day.
Yeah.
When everybody else is running, we get to go to that. And whether it's something, I mean, I remember for my last agency, for whatever reason, when it was weird calls, the dispatch liked to give them to me. And but she called me like 3 years in a row. I went out to this 90-year-old lady and relit her water heater every winter. And but she couldn't do it. And the fact that I could be there for her is it's a really special relationship that officers get with it. They do, however, see a lot of trauma. Well, and I'm not sure I remember quite the question, but so we have to deal with that as well. And we know that suicide rates among officers. So it's something that we want to constantly keep an eye on our officers and make sure that they feel safe and secure.
But that's part of that brotherhood that you talked
It
about.
is, yes.
Because it's the police, it's the sheriff, it's the fire. You're all dealing with these high adrenaline, but also high intensity, stressful situations.
But then they're all tough guys too.
And girls.
And girls, correct. Absolutely. Thank you. They're all tough guys and girls, and so they don't sometimes want to share their feelings. And unfortunately, in law enforcement, especially when I started, going to like talk to a counselor, it was really seen as a negative. And so, because they only did it when when something bad happened. And so you're like, oh, great. Am I going to be coming back to work after this? So it really had a stigma associated with it.
But that has changed, I would think.
It's changing. Yeah, it's changed quite a bit. And we did this in my last agency, and I think Utah was a little bit ahead of California in that. And when I came here, they were already. So, and what they do is once a year, every officer meets with a mental health, and they have a one-on-one meeting.
And they can do more if they need.
They can, yes. And the city also has an EAP program that's confidential where they can call in additional services. But the one that we do at the police department is mandatory. And they can talk about football. That's what the one's about.
Wow.
But what we have found is that officers actually like them. And they actually look forward to them. And then they're able to, decompress a little bit. They can even bring a family member. So but we want them to be as healthy as possible, because an officer that's having problems is going to provide as good of remote services. And then what else we do is we keep an eye on critical incidents that occur. Like, for instance, great example is an officer having to give. I had one time in my career where We had to do. I did not, but they had to do CPR on a baby that just had a heart surgery, and the baby passed away. Well, all those officers are fathers, and so that's pretty traumatic. Um, and so I mean, it's not. Yeah, and so I won't get into it, but what we did is we scheduled a meeting for them so that they were required to go to. And what we also have, we just implemented in January, is called an early intervention system. And so what that system does is it kind of keeps track of all the incidents the officers respond to, the use of force reports that they do, the after action reports. And it assigns a point value to each of the things that the use of force. They assigns a point value. You get a certain amount of point values within a certain period of time, and it sends an email to the supervisors. And then we look at them and go, okay, he's had 4 use of force in 6 months.
So
That's
just
just
bad luck is following, or the
yeah.
just there
So
needs
is
to
this something we need to look at?
Yeah.
Does he need some more training? Um, that type of thing, and hopefully, get in there real quick and be able to help the officer. Um, and it's also not meant to be a negative thing. It's meant to be a positive thing.
more training, continued training.
Yes.
So one of the things that impressed me 2 years ago during the interview process is you had talked about watching Hanford grow from pretty much an agriculture community to a fairly significant size.
Yeah, it was about 60,000.
Yeah, and that's kind of where Heber's headed. As we see the growth and we see just people moving in because they love it, because their backyard views are so beautiful. What do you see as some of the complexities as our community changes? How is that impacting law enforcement?
Yeah, I was surprised by the similarities between our cities. Um, Definitely Hanford was a little bit bigger, but we actually the freeway used to go through the middle of downtown.
And did they do a bypass?
They did do a bypass.
Oh, and did that help?
Well, I did. It
Interesting.
actually, the bypass was older than the, so it was very, but it definitely, yeah, it definitely helped in downtown. Yes, it does.
But they still have local traffic.
Yes, yeah,
Fly
they
on
have
by.
they have a downtown
Mhm.
and a lot of old buildings and stuff. It started about 1881, I think, so kind of similar to
Yeah.
the time frame here. The freeway going through on the bypass was 198. It's 189 here. Um, they have a famous ice cream shop. They have a famous
Right.
hickory ice cream shop. We have so everybody rides the train to go to Hanford to go to the ice cream shop. We have a train. It's just, I was like, and then Heber, Hanford.
Yeah.
It's almost the same initials. And so sometimes I'll say the wrong name occasionally, but and more so that I'm getting older and I have early onset dementia, I think. So I've been saying the other name for so many years, it's hard to remember. But so there's just a lot of similarities between the cities. Um, but I think one of the things that we're really doing is trying to keep an eye on that growth and watch and see what we need and try to anticipate those needs. Our city council has been really good at doing that. I mentioned earlier the automated license plate readers. Those aren't cheap,
Yeah.
but they can really help um, uh, help the police department in investigating the incidents. And so they did that, and they also just in this last budget approved a detective position. And as we continue to grow, we're getting more serious and major crimes that will happen as we continue to grow. And so um, the typical officer, they're good enough to handle those incidents, but they don't have the time to.
Right.
Our number one mission is responding to 911 calls. That's the most.
Right.
If everything else fails, we're going to respond.
So do you see that detective position being internal, a promotion within?
It will be a promotion within and end up with a newer officer on the back end of it. And so when that person gets on, they'll be handling those more major cases that the officer doesn't have the time and resources to handle. And we get, there's a lot of child abuse cases, things of that nature that we get through that we have to process through. And so that's going to help. And then we just have to keep an eye on that and see where it's going to with more people. Unfortunately, we'll bring more problems. There's a certain segment of the community, unfortunately, that does not obey the rules. And so as that continues to increase, we need to monitor it for gang activity, homeless activity, graffiti, and that tells us a lot. The type of graffiti, is it gangs? Is it skateboarders?
Right.
Is it what type of tagging is it? And just paying attention to what we're seeing on the street, how that's gonna go into the future. Also, the classes and stuff that we attend can give us a good idea of um, what what is occurring in other places that might trickle down to us. One of the things that we're doing that we're going to see right now is we've partnered with actually one stop over here,
The canine unit.
the canine unit. Yes, we're so excited about that. That'll be the only apprehension canine on the Wasatch. And Officer Jesse Bell, if you've met Jesse Bell, he's probably the largest officer we have, and he's probably one of the nicest officers we have as well. I think he's going to do a fabulous job. He's going to be the canine. But we got some donations from Cromwell Auto Group, Low at One Stop, and we're going to let the community name the dog. So we'll soon see some names coming out. We have to be a little careful because we want the correct name as well. So we're going to give some alternatives and let the public kind of choose what name they think the dog should have. So stay tuned for that.
I love that.
And it'll be fun seeing that. The dog is great for community relations as well. People love animals, and they're highly trained, and it's kind of fun to see them sniffing out drugs or taking down the guy in the big red suit.
Right.
And so it'll provide us some additional opportunities to do that.
I love it. So Parker, as we kind of wrap this up, I really appreciate your honesty and coming to Heber with kind of a fresh approach and being willing to take on some of the hard things that our community has been dealing with. But I'm so curious, why do you serve? What is your why? I'm serving as a police officer, as a peace officer, and as a leader in our community.
Well, I love the public. I love people. I'm a kind of a I just love interacting with people and who they are and their quirkiness and craziness and especially I know we didn't get into it, but I had cancer, and so that really kind of changed my focus a little bit. So I'm like, I I love people, and there's not enough time left in my life to um to sit there and hate on somebody. So I just much prefer to have a positive attitude on everybody. That's what I generally try to do. I'm not perfect on it, nor are any
We're all working on it.
we're all working on it. But what was that final wrap up question? I'm sorry.
So this podcast really is about community builders.
Yeah.
And in the 2 years that you've been here, I really have seen so many programs and relationships and bridges that you have been able to build. So I'm just curious, like, is it just innate in you or is it something that you've learned over your career in law enforcement?
I think it's a little bit of my personality, but it's also something that's 30 years of experiences and finding out what makes me happy. And what I found is, despite all the negativity that you encounter in law enforcement, you can counteract a lot of that stuff with positive things. And my fondest memories in my 30 years are not of people yelling and cussing at me. It's of the people that I was able to help. And so those are the memories that I hold on to. And those are the ones that I remember. And so that's what we want to instill in the officers. And that's as we talk about being a community builder. For me, a lot it's supporting the officers, hiring the right people, so that they can engage with the community and provide a high level of service to them, so that we end up, despite the growth, the best place that we can be. And I know the growth is is a challenging thing,
Right.
but it's also, I mean, we're blessed to live in a place that people want to be. And how much more worse would it be if we lived somewhere where nobody wanted? And so that's kind of can be a hard thing to manage as well. But no, I've been an officer for 29 years now, and definitely it's been a wonderful career. And I wouldn't change the occupation I chose. Stretch.
And I really do feel like it is who you are. You're one of the good guys and I appreciate
I tried to. That was my goal. My entire career was just to try to do the right thing, and that's where I've put everything. Is if there's two scenarios are given to me, which one is more right? And that's what I try to do. And unfortunately, being in administration, you have to make hard things. You have to release people. You have to do things that aren't very fun. Um, I've always tried to do what's right for the officers.
Well, I think you're doing a great job, and I appreciate you coming to Heber, and I think we're better off
I
for
think
the work that you do.
we have some. I think the officers do a way better job than I do. They do a fabulous job. We have our officers really do care about the city. One of the things that just real quick that we
Yeah.
implemented was called Power Engage. And if you did a call for service with our police department, you're gonna get a survey on your phone, text message to you. So we sent out. It's got about 40% return. We're closing in on 1,000 surveys returned. We have a 94% 5-star. And people have said,
Which is ironically because when you're dealing with the public, they tend to want to reply back when they have a negative. And so it's great that 1,000 surveys and you're getting that great response.
no, and what it does, it makes it easy for because you're correct. Most of the time, the first people that want to respond are those that are angry.
Right.
This allows the normal person to respond. And that's really what we want to see is on those mundane calls, the stolen bikes. How are our officers doing? Because if they're handling the stolen bike well, that a robbery case, they're handling well as well. Because those are the ones they live for.
Yeah.
That's what they're trained for. If they can handle those small things and do a great job on those bigger cases, they'll do a good job on.
Well, I'm so appreciative of you coming down this morning. We're grateful for Gordon Law Group that allows us to be in this beautiful studio, and Heber Valley Life magazine that really is the sponsor and supporting this as we are putting out good things for the community and letting people know more about you as a person.
Well, thanks for the invite. And if
You're-
anybody ever wants to come down the PD, let us know.
And you'll take treats, dinner.
Oh, yeah, donuts we love. I mean,
Thanks again, and we'll see you on August 5th at the biggest splashdown. Is that what we're calling it?
yes. Yeah.
Between Heber City Police Department and Wasatch County Fire. So it should be a lot of fun.
Thank
All
you
right.
for your time.
Thanks, Parker.
No problem.